I purchased mine from the big box store Home Depot. On their website for the local store here in Madison, the water heater cost $11.50 before tax and delivery. I purchased mine from a Home Depot in Salem, Oregon for $650. Delivery was another $75 and then tax on top of that. After that I had to buy some electrical stuff and some pipe and fittings, so probably added another $100. I'm gonna say total I was in the game probably for about $850. Your cost is likely to be cheaper because you probably didn't need to do extra electrical work like I had to do. Now, why did we get one? Our existing electric hot water heater was a 55-gallon costing approximately $520 per year per the label on the front of it. Our new heat pump water heater says it costs $104 to operate per year, and it is a 40-gallon. So we were near the end of the life of our old electric water heater, and rather than wait for it to leak, I said, forget it, I'm excited about the heat pump water heater, so we went out and purchased one. It took me about a week to install. We got it on the 12th, delivered to our house in a snowstorm, and I had it all installed by the 19th. I probably could have done it quicker, folks, but I was being meticulous and wanted everything to be perfect, so like I took a long time to decide what pipe to use, whether copper, PEX, or CPVC, and how to do all of the how to connect all the pipes. So you could be more decisive, probably do it in like a day or one day and into the next day and then be finished with it. Now let's talk a little bit about the install. So after you remove your old water heater and you put your new one in place, don't put it up super tight against the wall, because if you ever want to put like frame out a wall behind down there in your basement, you've got some clearance there. What's really going to dictate where you put the water heater is where are the pipes coming down. So you're just going to like line it up, put it right there, and then connect this stuff. So that's really the main thing that's going to happen. But then after you got it in place, you want to level it. So these are shims. See those? This pack of shims probably costs about $2 or $3 at the big box store. You want to level it horizontally and vertically. So I put a total of 4 shims into ours, made sure everything was perfect. Then hooked up all the pipes, and then after that you want to hook up the electrical. For the electrical, for ours we needed a 30 amp twin pole breaker with a 10 gauge wire. The great people who lived in this house before us were running a smaller breaker with a smaller wire, which I think is not even technically to code or legal according to code, but that was not caught by us. So they got a free one there, so I had to go out and spend about $50, $20 in the breaker and $30 on the aluminum on the outside, like armored cable, and I had to run that and get that all hooked up. So that was an extra $50 cost for us. So after you get the electrical good and you got the thing in place, let's talk about the pipe that you use. My recommendation would be use whatever pipe, whether that's copper, CPVC, which is like white stuff, or PEX, which comes in red or blue. Use whatever's already there is what I would recommend using, because it'll just make everything look nice and it'll look professional. And then in terms of fittings, I just used the little snap or the push to connect fittings. I think they're called shark bite fittings. Super easy, more expensive, like $4 to $5 per fitting, but I only had one of them leak on me a little bit, and then I fixed it and we're all good to go so far, knock on wood, and we've been at this for about a month and a half or 2 months. So it was like, it's pretty dummy proof. So and in order to cut the pipe, you either need a pipe cutter if you're going to do copper, or I just borrowed a big garden loppers from my neighbor, and I use that to cut the CPVC or the PEX, and that was pretty simple. So I used a combination of PEX and copper in my install, as you can see in the video. And I guess that's all I want to say. Just one last tip here. Folks, it's much cheaper to move heat than to create heat. So in the future, all hot water heaters are going to be heat pump water heaters, and you're not going to have a furnace any longer. You're going to have a heat pump in your house, which basically what it does is it takes the heat out of the air. That's called an air source heat pump, and it puts it into, in this case, the water. Or if you got one for your, instead of a furnace, it takes the heat from outside and puts it into your house. It's cheaper to move heat from one location to another than to create heat fresh out of some sort of chemical reaction. So one thing about this though is this air source heat pump water heater takes heat from my basement and puts it into the water. So it makes my basement a couple degrees cooler, okay? And it also needs a large space from which to take heat from. So you wouldn't put one of these in a closed, cramped closet where it doesn't have airflow, because it needs to get the air to take the heat out of it to put it into the water. Also, my basement is insulated with R10 insulation, and I'm running some extra ductwork down here. So honestly, when you go from our basement up to our first floor, there's very little temperature difference. It's pretty comfortable down here in my basement. So this silver thing right here, guys, is the temperature pressure relief valve, and I ended up reusing, it's that guy, I ended up reusing the one from my old water heater, so I didn't have to buy a new one. And then this is the condensate line. It's the one in blue there. Goes down, and then I put another elbow on the end, running it right over to the drain. Heat pumps are the future of it all. Anyway, hope that's helpful, guys. Any questions, drop them in the comments, and good luck with your next DIY project.